Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Illinois Divorce TV. I'm divorce attorney in Chicago, Bobby Buchanan. In this video, we're talking about who pays the mortgage in a divorce. So there's two different time frames when we can answer this question. Who pays the mortgage during the divorce process? And then who pays the mortgage after the divorce is over? Well, during the divorce process, who pays the mortgage is generally going to be the person who has always paid the mortgage. So what happens if they're not paying the mortgage? What do you do? What can you do? What do courts do? What courts usually do, if you ask them to, is maintain the status quo. So let's say that you are the wife in a divorce. You have two kids. They're ages 10 and 13 for this example. They're going to school, as all kids do, and they have a certain amount of stability because you guys live in the house. They're going to a school that is in the same district, but there's been some marital strife and dad has moved out. He's going to live somewhere else. He's gotten his own apartment now. And because of his anger towards you and maybe the kids as well, he says, you know what? You can support yourself now. I'm not going to pay the mortgage. Even though you gave up your career to raise the kids and he is the sole breadwinner. So you really don't have any capability of paying the mortgage. And he's kind of doing this to flex a little bit of muscle, but it's causing a real problem because you're going to start getting letters from the bank. You could be found to default. The house could be foreclosed on. And before you know it, your kid's world is turned upside down. What we typically do in a case like this is we file a motion to maintain the status quo, meaning we're asking the court to order the husband to continue paying for all the things that he has always paid for. Just because there's a separation, there's a breakdown in the marriage, doesn't mean that he doesn't have the obligation to continue to support the family and, most importantly, can maintain that stability for the children. So that's what's going to happen during the divorce process, most likely. After the divorce, who pays the mortgage really depends on who ends up with the house. So that can go a lot of different ways. If in this same scenario, both you and your husband are on the mortgage or on the title to the house, although you can watch my other videos on why who's on the title to the house doesn't matter most of the time for who's going to get the house. But let's assume you're both on the mortgage. So one of you is going to have to be removed from the mortgage if the other one keeps the house. That's the way it happens in 99% of cases, is the person who keeps the house is also the person who has to take the liability for the house. And it only makes sense for somebody to take the house if they're in a financial position to be able to refinance and get the other person's name off the house, because no one's going to agree to remain on a mortgage when they don't have the house, even if the person who's keeping the house is agreeing to pay the mortgage. Because if you are on a mortgage, it's going to make it incredibly more difficult for you to get other financing to move on with your life yourself. So in our example here, the mother, if she wants to stay in the house with the kids, is going to have to convince a bank that she can afford to pay for the house and that she should be able to refinance and get her husband's name off of there. Now, she might be able to do it by virtue of maybe starting to work now that she's, kind of in another chapter of her life. She might be getting maintenance, and she will be getting child support. So maintenance is also commonly known as alimony, and she'll be getting that if the court finds that because of her financial situation, support payments to her are needed to maintain a certain style of living. And if the court finds that she did sacrifice her earning potential in order to raise the kids. So if she can take all those income sources to a bank and say, here you go, I am able to afford this mortgage and that's what I want to do, then that bank will agree to refinance the loan, removing the husband from the mortgage, and she'll continue to pay the mortgage after the divorce is done. And there's ways to figure this out, even if the question of whether or not she can stay on the mortgage is still a valid question. So typically in an MSA, a marital settlement agreement, this is the divorce contract, if you will, there'll be a caveat to say, well, if she cannot refinance, then she has to sell the house in 90 days and split the proceeds. So there's kind of a plan B in there. I hope that's answered your questions about who pays the mortgage in a divorce and after a divorce. Let me know in the comments below if you have any comments, questions. If you want to continue the conversation, I'm happy to do so there. Don't forget to subscribe or follow so you get my daily videos on the Illinois divorce process. I'll talk to you soon.